Hello and thank you for taking the time to watch our webinar. My name is Bennett Tyler with Aberdeen, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our on-demand webinar session, State of Service 2019, How Best-in-Class Firms Exceed Customer Expectations. This webinar was produced by Aberdeen and is brought to you by Astea. Over the next 40 minutes, we'll be hearing from Omer Minkara, VP and Principal Analyst at Aberdeen, and Emily Hackman, Director of Global Marketing at Astea. They'll be discussing the state of service in 2019. The top objectives driving service leaders, some of the strategies and technologies the best-in-class employ, and the role of contingent labor in service. This session is pre-recorded, but if you have any questions during the webinar, you can reach out for more information. Contact information will be provided at the conclusion of the webinar. It is now my pleasure to turn the webinar over to Omer Minkara.
Great. Thank you, Bennett, and hi, everyone. Once again, welcome to our webinar, where we have a great session prepared for you today. And we're going to be talking about state of service in 2019. But before we get started with some of our research findings around what it takes to become a best-in-class service organization today, we have several housekeeping items to cover. Number one is what's in it in today's webinar for you. On the screen, you should be seeing 4 different metrics towards the right-hand side of the screen. Those 4 metrics, along with many other ones, are very near and dear to the hearts and minds of service leaders. And as part of our conversation today, we're going to talk about best-in-class service organizations. Those are the companies that observe 55% greater customer retention rates compared to businesses that are not succeeding in service today. Those same businesses are also able to turn service interactions from being a cost center into being a profit generator, where you can see that those same businesses are seeing a company revenue growth to the tune of 16 times more compared to their competitors. They're also seeing some significant improvements in terms of workforce engagement. They're seeing a greater retention rate across the technicians in the field service and contact center agents. And as you can see, the first-time fixed rates are also greater. So our goal from today's webinar is to help you accomplish similar, if not better, results within your service organization. And to do that, we're going to go on a journey that will have different stops, where our first stop will be taking a look at the top objectives of service leaders. What keeps them up at night, but also how do they tackle their challenges? From a strategy perspective, we'll take a look at the strategies that best-in-class organizations use to empower their workforce and how they supply them with the right information, in other words, the right knowledge at the right time to drive service excellence. And then we're going to talk about a trending topic that is contingent labor. And we'll see some of the different use cases of contingent labor and share some best practices and how to make the most of your contingent labor activities if you have them already or planning to incorporate them in your business. Next up, in terms of our housekeeping items, is a quick summary of some of the insights that we're hoping to leave you with. One of the learnings that we're going to be sharing today is the fact that innovation today is a big struggle for many service leaders. Many service organizations have cited that they struggle to innovate to be able to deliver what we call iconic service experiences. And we'll take a look at how the best-in-class organizations are delivering those iconic service experiences by using technology to augment their service workforce, technologies like knowledge management, like AI-related capabilities, but also how certain best-in-class organizations are using contingent labor to hire, onboard, and retain employees, be it contingent or full-time employees, so that they, in turn, they being the businesses, accomplish their expected results. Lastly, just a quick reminder on our research methodology. As we're going to be sharing a lot of our research findings with you today, it is important to highlight and remind that all those best practices that we're about to share with you today are all grounded on a methodology that we use here in the Aberdeen Group. The methodology allows us to understand how company performance looks like across various measures of success and determine the top strategies, processes, and technologies that drive the success when it comes to service excellence. So with that, why don't we start taking a look at the top objectives that drive service leaders' agenda? In other words, what keeps the service leaders up at night? And what are some of the top goals that the service organizations are looking to achieve today? Let's start off with the latter. Recently, we surveyed 369 service organizations all around the world from many different industries and from companies of all sizes. And one of the questions that we asked to those 369 businesses was, what goals are you looking to accomplish? And as you can see, top of the list, not so much of a surprise, is improving customer satisfaction rates. That is, we want to improve the satisfaction levels of our clients, and we want to make sure that they retain loyal clientele. But if you move down the list, that's where it gets interesting from a service perspective, because traditionally, growing brand awareness and loyalty are not necessarily, especially brand awareness, is not necessarily a service-related goal. It's mostly cited by marketers. So you can really see the maturity curve that the service organizations have been navigating, where service leaders are now understanding their impact on how they determine brand awareness and influence it, and therefore really try to manage that. As you go further down the list, you're also seeing employee empowerment, which is our third data point here, and also driving efficiency, which is reflected in the form of profitability, where businesses are trying to reduce cost and grow revenue. So we've seen what the service leaders are trying to accomplish. But what about the challenges that they see along the way? What roadblocks are they trying to overcome to achieve those challenges? That was another question that we asked as a multi-choice question, just because companies are challenged with many different factors. And the number one challenge, it seems, is innovation, as you can see towards the top of the table. You don't see the word innovation here, but essentially how we get to that is the fact that more and more service leaders are trying to differentiate based on delivering customer experiences, the distinctive customer experiences. And to distinguish yourself, you need to innovate. As you can see, service leaders are clearly indicating that they need help when it comes to becoming more innovative to differentiate their brands. And as you go further down the list, you're going to see access to customers' greater access to a wealth of knowledge and insights so that they can make more educated decisions. In other words, customers are empowered and service leaders are struggling with managing this empowerment. And further down the list, as you go through the top challenges that keep service leaders up at night, you're seeing consistency in navigating customer interactions across many different channels. We'll take a look at the customer interaction ecosystem today, but there's a lot of channels that service leaders need to navigate when they manage client interactions. And as you can see, delivering those omni-channel interactions is still a roadblock or a challenge for many firms. The good news is, if you in your business are struggling with any of those challenges, we're going to be talking about how the best-in-class organizations are successfully overcoming them. So speaking of the best-in-class, what are those businesses that achieve better results, which we'll shortly take a look at, doing from a strategy perspective to alleviate those problems? The number one strategy that they put in place is to formalize a customer experience program. So instead of paying lip service to customer experience, that is, manage CX in an ad hoc way, they actually establish a formal plan. They define metrics, they determine their objectives, and they manage to that. As you go further down the list, those same companies in purple, the best in class, are also more likely to use data gathered through different channels to personalize customer interactions and establish that single view of customer insights to be able to ensure consistency all across the customer interactions. And another focus area towards the bottom here is employee empowerment, empowering technicians and contact center agents with the insights they need to do their jobs. Now, when we also look back a little bit and take a look at the broader picture on the screen, you're seeing that there's not a whole lot of gap between the best-in-class and other businesses' adoption rates of those strategies. So what does that mean? That means that to become best-in-class is not necessarily you determining what strategy you need to use, but it's how well you should be executing those strategies. So because the best-in-class organizations have found ways to successfully execute those strategies. That's how they're able to drive better results compared to their competition. We talked about the complexity of the channel ecosystem. I want to visually represent how complex it is for service leaders, those are your peers, and yourself to manage the expectations of the empowered customers. We've been tracking the channel adoption rates for just about 6 to 7 years now across service organizations, and when we asked the current and planned adoption of different channels, here's what we found. On average, just about every other business out there, 51% is our cutoff point here, about video, including video conferencing and above, you have 10 different channels. In other words, every other service organization out there is using at least 10 different channels to deliver service. Those 10 channels or more could vary from firm to firm. Different industries, different firms use different channels. But this, what you see right here, really highlights the fact that service leaders struggle a lot to be able to ensure consistency, but also personalization of service delivery across each and every one of those channels. And again, we'll take a look at how the best-in-class organizations are overcoming that complexity by empowering their workforce. So speaking of the best-in-class organizations, why don't we start taking a look at their strategies, and I'll also help you determine if you in your business qualify as one of those best-in-class organizations, and if not, we'll share some of the building blocks to help you get there. So how do we determine the best-in-class service organizations in 2019? To do that, we use 5 different metrics. Those 5 metrics are determined because they are measured by 80% or more of service organizations today. So they're not, for lack of a better word, emerging metrics. They are well-established, commonly measured metrics that are applied as benchmarks across many different verticals and companies of all sizes. And the first 2 of those 5 metrics are here on the screen: customer experience-related measures, retention rates, which indicates loyalty, but also improvement in customer satisfaction. The best-in-class firms, those are the top 20% of our respondents, 369 respondents, have told us that they're retaining about 30 to 40% more of their clientele compared to their competition year over year, and also they're achieving some phenomenal improvement annually in improving customer satisfaction rates. So clearly, they must have done something right to create those happy customers and retain their business, and we'll take a look at those building blocks. But the other 3 metrics that we use to determine what it takes to become a best-in-class service leader today are also here on the screen. The first metric up top is reflective of efficiency in handling customer needs. It's essentially how quickly a technician can address a customer's issue, or what's the average handle times in the contact center for an agent to be able to respond and address a customer's issue. As you can see, the best-in-class firms are shrinking, that is improving those response time to customer needs. Therefore, they are becoming easier to do business with and more customer-friendly, driven by efficiency. Those same service organizations, as you can see towards the second data point here, are also driving greater revenue. Why is that happening? Because they delight their customers. Those same customers are more likely to spend more with the service organizations that meet and exceed their needs, and therefore those companies grow their revenue. And because of the efficiency gains, those companies are reducing their costs, and as they grow their revenue, they're seeing greater profit margins. Now, just a quick note here, based on what we're seeing on the screen, the degree of those benefits will vary from business to business. Not every business will see the exact same level of benefits. Especially if you look at the company revenue number, for example, a $5 billion company may not see that kind of revenue growth. But the whole story here is that when you implement all the best-in-class building blocks, you will be seeing improvements across all of the metrics that we just looked at. The degree of those improvements will vary based on many different factors. So with that, we talked about the best-in-class strategies early on, and we talked about the number 1 strategy being establishing a formalized business plan around customer experience execution, defining certain metrics, and identifying the stakeholders responsible from overseeing CX programs. Let's take a look at adoption of the best-in-class, adoption of those capabilities by the best-in-class firms versus the others. Towards the left, you're seeing that the companies in purple, the best-in-class firms, are just about 40 to 50% more likely to have defined a formal strategy to become more customer-centric. That is, they have educated each and every stakeholder in the business on their role in terms of how they contribute to improving customer experience results. The second data point highlights that every stakeholder in the business has the exact same understanding of the company's customer experience goals. Because one of the challenges that we see many businesses face today is that service organization has its own understanding of customer experience, it has its own goals, but elsewhere in the business, marketing, back office, and sales may have different expectations and understandings. So synchronizing across the business is critical. And another challenge that we often hear from our clients is who should be managing CX? Should it be an individual within the business? Do we need a dedicated executive? Or should it be sitting under a certain team or a cross-departmental team? It seems that best-in-class organizations use all approaches. As you can see from the third data point, they are more likely to have a decentralized approach where CX, customer experience, is owned by multiple departments. They're also more likely to have a dedicated customer executive. So the takeaway from here is whether it's managed, it being customer experience, whether it's CX is managed by a dedicated executive or a cross-departmental team, make sure that you have someone accountable from setting the goals and overseeing implementation. Don't make it nice to have activity. Don't pay lip service to customer experience. And when you put the right building blocks, as the best-in-class organizations do, not only you'll be seeing greater customer experience results and greater efficiency, but now you're also going to be seeing improvements in how you utilize customer data. How is that? Well, let's take a look. One of the questions that we asked to those 369 businesses that participated in the survey was how satisfied are they when it comes to their ability to use existing data about customers to do their jobs. And it turns out that just about a quarter, 27% to be specific, of the businesses told us that they are fully satisfied. That tells us that the best-in-class organizations, that top 20% of the businesses, are far more likely to be able to do what they want to do in terms of improving customer experience results, growing their revenue or reducing costs by using the existing data. They're not struggling using those insights. So how do they do that? What building blocks do they establish to get the most out of existing insights? Step number one is they standardize customer data all around the business, especially for businesses that operate across different geographies or different product lines. You may be capturing data in different ways. And when that happens, it's harder to integrate those insights to establish a single view of customer interactions, which means that the technicians may not know if the customer is using a certain product. What spare parts should they bring? The contact center agent may not know the customer status of a particular phone caller. Whatever the different use cases may be, it's critical to standardize customer data across the business to ensure that data is easy to integrate. But also, it is equally important to ensure compliance with privacy regulations. Regulations such as GDPR and others, including PCI in the financial services industry and HIPAA in other industries, just overall as non-service examples goes, to be able to ensure compliance with those regulations. And once you go through those activities, then you are able to easily integrate the data points across different systems to have a seamless view into the customer journeys, which is our third data point that you're seeing here on the screen. Now, a common challenge that we also hear from many different service leaders is there's a gap between the IT team and the service team. As much as the service team needs help managing customer data and implementing different technologies, they're not getting the help they need from the IT team. Well, one of the ways that those businesses are countering the challenge, those businesses being the best-in-class businesses, one of the ways they counter that challenge is by tying the success of the IT team with customer experience goals. And the way they do that is by associating the compensation of the IT team with metrics such as NPS, which is a form of customer satisfaction, or customer retention rates. By giving IT reasons why they should be focusing on customer experience results, those companies are essentially rewarding the behavior, the right behavior. And as a result, they're also more likely to secure regular meetings between IT and the line of business, in this case service, so the IT team is helping all lines of businesses, including service, so that they have easier access to the right data they need to do their jobs. And ultimately, this helps also solve this particular challenge that you're seeing on the screen. Early on, we talked about how only 27% of businesses were fully satisfied with their ability to use existing data to do their jobs. To put another way, just about 3/4 of businesses are struggling using data. And when that happens, it has a spillover impact to the employee productivity. In fact, in our recent CX survey, one of the questions that we asked to the participants was, on average, what percentage of an employee's time, employee being a contact center agent or a field service technician, what percent of their time is spent looking for information? It turns out that that number is 17%. So if you run some numbers here and assume that an average employee, which could be a technician or a contact center agent, costs about $50,000 in average labor cost, and the service organization has 200 of those employees. Those employees spending up to 17% of their time cost the business about $1.7 million each and every year due to poor access to information. And we're going to talk about how the service organizations are empowering their employees with knowledge management tools to overcome that challenge in our next section. But before we do that, I also want to touch on technology. We've seen how businesses struggle when it comes to utilizing data and empowering their employees. So what technologies are they using, and why do they use those technologies, and the alignment associated with the challenges? I'm sure many of our attendees may have heard the term AI, artificial intelligence. AI essentially refers to a set of technologies, the ones that we'll see on our next slide, that enable businesses to manage their activities in a smarter fashion. And businesses are investing into AI for a number of reasons. Reason number one, according to our research, is to drive intelligence in customer interactions. If you remember, we saw that only 27% of service organizations are satisfied with their ability to use data. And countering that challenge is the number one reason why businesses are turning to AI. They want to become smarter in how they use the existing data. But we've also seen how 17% of an employee's time is spent looking for information. Companies are turning to AI capabilities such as next best action guidance to empower employees with the right insight they need at the right time. And some of the other reasons why companies are turning to AI capabilities is reducing labor costs. So automating certain tasks which may not require the decision-making capabilities of a technician or a contact center agent, really helping them focus more on complex and rewarding tasks. And also getting rid of inefficiencies for manual processes is yet another reason. Now, we talked about different AI capabilities, and we mentioned that we would be sharing our definition and the adoption rates of those capabilities. So why don't we do that here? Just recently, we wrapped up a new survey where we asked service leaders what technologies are they looking to implement in 2019 and beyond. As you can see on the screen, the purple color is indicative of the current adoption of those technologies, and the teal color is indicative of planned adoption. When you look at the teal colors, the technologies that have the greatest planned adoption rates are here in the yellow bars, categorized as AI-related tools. So what are those tools? Machine learning essentially refers to using software that is programmed to learn on its own, where there could be minimal human guidance. And you have real-time decision assistant guidance, which essentially relies on machine learning activities. So when the machine or the software detects a certain context, like a contact center agent speaking with a customer, they can recommend the agent what knowledge base article they should use to solve a particular issue. Artificial intelligence, right up top, refers to software that could mimic human decision-making power. That is, that can make decisions on its own using machine learning capabilities. And at the moment, some of the many different use cases for that include forecasting, scheduling. So being able to forecast how many technicians or contact center agents will you need, and being able to schedule those employees automatically through the software. So what benefits are businesses seeing by using artificial intelligence in their service activities? Let's take a look at that. Two different colors here on the screen. You're seeing teal color for companies that are using AI, and the red color for companies that are not using AI. And we're looking at the year-over-year change in performance. And as you can see, the companies that are AI-enabled are seeing about 3 times the greater annual increase in customer satisfaction rates. So what that tells us is that by using artificial intelligence capabilities such as the ones that we've seen early on, companies are able to better understand the customer's expectations and ultimately exceed them, resulting in happier customers. Towards the right, you're seeing customer lifetime value, where improving that metric is hinging on the ability to retain clients, but also grow their spend over time. And because AI users are improving this metric, we can safely say that those same companies are also growing client spend year over year and retaining their clientele. And because those companies are growing the client spend, as you can see, they're observing about 3 times the annual growth in company revenue. And towards the left, because those AI-enabled businesses have happier customers, they are also more likely to enjoy word of mouth, that is, earned media, where customers are raving about their positive experiences through many different social media platforms. When it comes to more traditional service metrics, like agent productivity in the contact center or technician productivity, first-time fix rates or first contact resolution rates, the results are rather similar. Towards the left, businesses that are using AI are seeing about 60 to 70% greater improvement in employee productivity. They're seeing about 80% greater improvement in first contact resolution rates in the contact center, which is considered as first-time fix rates when it comes to field service. And then right there towards the middle here, the average number of transfer per calls is another interesting one. That is, by using capabilities such as machine learning, service leaders are able to determine what customer issues are resolved best with what agent capabilities. So understanding how to optimize routing activities in the contact center so that the customers don't need to be transferred repeatedly and therefore increasing customer effort, but rather minimizing telephony and labor costs. As you go further towards the right, you're also seeing that those businesses are ultimately driving greater revenue per customer interaction. So we've seen the benefits of AI. We talked about empowering the service workforce early on, where 17% of an employee's time was spent looking for information. So what else are those best-in-class organizations in purple doing here to align the employee activities with customer experience objectives? Towards the left, you're seeing that they analyze the employee activities very closely. They analyze employee activities by looking at first-time fix rates, average handle times, to determine if employees need training, if they need coaching, and if so, providing that. They also capture the voice of the customer, which is our second data point towards the left, through online surveys and IVR surveys, and many different methods to understand if and how technicians and contact center agents are meeting customer expectations. And if they're not, again, providing that coaching and training to employees so that they can meet those expectations. And as you go further towards the right, you're seeing that the best-in-class are not just relying on financial performance measurement and management tactics. They're also relying on gamification. They're providing employees with rewards and recognitions, with badges, honors, or Employee of the Month status, based on the employee's ability to drive expected, if not optimal, customer experience results. So far we've talked about the benefits of being a best-in-class service organization. We talked about what keeps the service leaders up at night. And now we're going to cover part 1 of the remaining 2 building blocks, knowledge management, where the next building block will be contingent labor. Now, knowledge management is a critical piece of success for the best-in-class organizations because it helps them empower the right employees at the right time with the right information. And as you can see, overall, our data shows that best-in-class organizations are about 50% more likely to use knowledge management. There's still greater room for growth in terms of adoption all across the board, but the best-in-class companies are clearly benefiting from greater adoption of knowledge management. Now, here's how those businesses are using knowledge management, though, because it's not just the technology itself that helps businesses achieve success, it's how those technologies are used. So towards the left, you're seeing the best-in-class businesses are using knowledge management as a centralized repository of product and service information. So when a contact center agent needs a knowledge-based article to handle a customer call, they can easily find and use that article. When a technician is on a customer site and they need information on how to troubleshoot a particular machinery and fix that item, again, they can easily do that through their mobile devices. And to further optimize use of knowledge management, the best-in-class organizations are providing their employees with real-time views of the customer journey so that the employees can know what product is the customer using, what spare parts do they need to bring, what is the resolution guidelines for that particular product to, again, drive efficiency and customer centricity along the way. And earlier we talked about AI capabilities. And as you can see in the third data point, the best-in-class firms are more likely to be using those AI capabilities, specifically next best action guidance, to be able to guide their technicians and agents with the right information at the right time. Another set of activities that really help amplify the benefits of knowledge management for effortless service experiences is right here on the left. Using data from historical interactions to identify how knowledge-based articles are supporting issue resolution. A great example on that is self-service. Our research in Aberdeen shows that just about every other business out there is using self-service already, with more businesses planning to incorporate that. So as self-service becomes more and more important for businesses and consumers as an expectation, it is critical that the knowledge-based articles or the self-service content helps the customers address their needs. And one of the use cases for knowledge management is the ability to look at customer experience results from the lens of how each and every knowledge-based article influences CX results. Once you determine how a certain article drives customer satisfaction or dissatisfaction, you can find the opportunities to improve your self-service programs. The second data point here shows us the impact of knowledge management in managing customer effort. By analyzing the customer effort levels, that is, if a customer is on a self-service site, they read an article, but then they called in to the contact center because the article did not do good enough of a job to help resolve the issue, that means that the customer's effort was high. So being able to analyze those interaction points and determine the efficiency and effectiveness of knowledge-based articles is just another way the best-in-class organizations are amplifying the results from their knowledge management activities. And then thirdly, as part of our conversation today, is contingent labor. That's a topic that's really top of mind for many service organizations because more and more businesses are looking into ways into augmenting their existing workforce with contingent labor. Now, the term contingent labor is used next to the different terms like the Uberization of service or part-time workers. We're using the term contingent labor because those are employees who are not full-time, but who are also working as part of the organization to deliver customer support. Now, when we look at the adoption rates of contingent labor across service organizations, here's what we found. It turns out that there is a cutoff point right there in the middle, 5 to 6 years, where for more simple issues that don't require a lot of knowledge and experience, so issues that require less than 5 or 6 years of experience to resolve, companies are actually more likely to be favoring using contingent labor because that doesn't require a lot of experience or intimate knowledge of the company products, and therefore the contingent labor is more likely to solve those issues. But for issues that require really advanced knowledge or a lot of years of experience, that's where the businesses are turning to their full-time workforce as you can see towards the right, for the utilization of full-time workforce. So something to think about in terms of your focus on incorporating contingent labor if you don't have it already, or if you have it and you're struggling to make the most out of it. This is just one of many ways your peers are using contingent labor within their activities, according to our research. And then, how do the best-in-class service organizations get the most out of their contingent labor? Well, number one, they make sure that they bring in the right skills into the business. They look at the skills of the contingent labor workforce against the skills that are needed to do the job. So they analyze the full-time workforce skills to determine what knowledge, what technical skills do the contingent labor workforce need, and they use those skills to assess who's the right candidate for the job. But when those candidates are working for the business as contingent labor, then they also implement traditional performance management and review processes. They analyze how each and every contingent labor, each and every employee as part of that contingent labor workforce is helping the business achieve its goals. If there's any opportunities for feedback, that feedback can be provided, as you can see towards the right. But also, employees are rewarded, even though they may be a part of the contingent labor workforce, rewarding them, providing them with an engaging atmosphere so that they feel rewarded and engaged to help the company achieve its CX goals. Now, we've covered quite a bit of ground so far, so I do want to do a quick wrap-up of some of our learnings before we hand it back to Emily for some additional insights and recommendations to become a best-in-class service organization in 2019 and beyond. Overall, we learned that innovation in service is really critical to differentiate against your peers today. And it is not easy. There are certain roadblocks companies see along the way, one of which is empowering employees. And we see the savvy service leaders are the ones that empower their employees with technology tools like knowledge management, like AI capabilities, so employees can easily access the right information at the right time to do their jobs. We've also taken a look at different use cases of contingent labor along with the best practices. So if you struggle really getting the most out of your workforce, I highly recommend you consider how you hire, onboard, and retain your workforce so you get the most out of your workforce to achieve your CX goals. So with that, Emily, we'll hand it over to you for some of your additional perspective before we hand it over to our moderator for some closing comments.
Great. Thank you so much, Omer. This is really important for Astea to be partnering with research firms like Aberdeen and with analysts such as Omer to really bring this kind of research to light, and it's helpful for us in being able to ensure that what we're seeing in our client base of some of the world's largest global service-driven companies, it's nice to see that we're building technology and features and functionality into our platform that are going to help service-driven companies do exactly that, become best-in-class firms and start to differentiate their offerings by using technology. If you're not familiar with Astea, Astea International has been around for 40 years. This is our 40th year anniversary, and we are global. I'm coming to you from the headquarters based out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We do have partners and clients all around the world. Our platform is considered an end-to-end best-of-breed field service management platform. It's called Alliance Enterprise, and one of the key differentiators for us is the fact that it's a comprehensive platform that will enable you to power the vast majority of your business. So some of these challenges that Omer was sharing with you, like the lack of one holistic view of customer data, is something that you can overcome by adopting our platform. Some other things that he mentioned about trying to improve customer retention rates, improve customer satisfaction rates, improve easy access to knowledge for your technicians, for your back office folks, for your people in the call center. These are all things that come embedded and come out of the box with our platform. And again, I mentioned as a global company, we're very proud to represent some of the world's best service-driven organizations. And we'd be certainly happy to talk with you and see if you would be one of our next success stories. I do want to take a moment and just talk a little bit about some of these points that Omer mentioned today that are the building blocks of really improving your customer experience management. The one point that he just talked about was the augmented workforces and the use of contingent workers. This is something that a lot of our clients came to us a few years ago and said, look, there's a shortage of skilled labor in the market. We are increasingly needing to rely on third-party and contingent workers. How can you help us with that? So one of the things that we've done is build a scheduling engine that can consider all different types of workers from one platform. To take that to the next level, you can also monitor their performance as if they were your own employee. We also have built a vendor version of our technician mobile app. So if you don't need your vendor, your contingent workers to have access to every single feature and functionality when they're out visiting with customers, you can control what they do, but you also at the same time are giving them similar tools so that it is a seamless and a consistent customer experience that you're creating for your brand. And lastly, we took all of that a step further and have built integrations to both Work Market and Field Nation. And we have several customers today who are leveraging contingent workers through those platforms and then funneling them through our scheduling engine in our field service management platform, and it makes it a lot more seamless. They don't have to switch between different systems in order to do that. As far as keeping a focus and having all of your employees focus on customer experience management, there are a lot of different tools and ways that we can help you do that with our platform. I'm not going to go into detail. You can see what's on the screen here, but one of the newest features we came out with when we launched a new version of our platform last year was this idea of a workflow tool that has a really easy, simple graphical interface. You don't have to be a super user. You don't have to know coding language in order to go in and set up these different automated workflows that can do things like send messages to customers in all different ways, like through IM pop-ups, through email, phone call, SMS, text, all these different ways that customers really expect for you to communicate with them these days in case there's a change in something. You need to proactively communicate to them instead of them having to wait and find out that a technician is late, for example. Lastly, let's talk about how we help with knowledge management. We do have an embedded knowledge base that any one of your employees, whether they're the technicians out in the field or they're in your call center, and everyone can access, so they have that fast access to data that Omer was talking about that is really critical to improving customer resolution times. You can also take it a step further, and if you don't want to make for example, your technicians have to search for a particular knowledge asset. If you're sending them out on a job for a service order, you can simply attach the product manual or the video that walks them through how to work on a particular equipment. And that's something that you can do while you're scheduling it so that they don't have to guess. They don't even have to take a second to search in the knowledge base. Whatever knowledge assets they need are going to be right there at their fingertips. And something else we've done to kind of augment our own capabilities in the knowledge management area is we've built integrations to XOI Technologies' visual intelligence and augmented reality platform. And this now allows technicians to easily capture knowledge assets like videos and pictures while they're on site. And then it makes it very easy to save those documents into our knowledge base so that everyone, all your service stakeholders, from your employees to even out to your customers, can then have access to that knowledge. And just to touch on the point, he's talking a lot about the benefits of artificial intelligence, and we do offer an integration to IBM Watson for any companies that are looking to leverage and experience some of those benefits there. I'll just end by saying, we're proud to sponsor and offer other helpful resources, whether it's from Aberdeen or other resources we produce ourselves. So I welcome you to visit Astea.com at any time to see what else we have available, whether it's a webinar, an infographic, or a white paper or video. We're always producing more things, so we welcome you to visit at any time. And with that, I just want to thank Omer again for sharing all of this great, insightful research with us. We greatly appreciate it, and we're happy to sponsor the State of Service for 2019. And with that, we'll hand it back to Bennett to close it out. Thank you.
That concludes our webinar session. I want to take a moment to thank Omer and Emily for sharing their research, insights, and recommendations with us, and thank you to Astea for making this webinar possible. We hope you found this webinar to be beneficial, and if you'd like to learn more about service in 2019, you can reach out via the contact information currently up on the screen or visit the links for more information. Once again, thank you for watching our webinar, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your day.